Hey guys, it's The Mole from Late Night Reviews with White Bread and the Mole. And White Bread and I just got back from seeing Blair Witch, the 2016 sequel to the Blair Witch Project. So yeah, there's a lot of that in this movie. One of the big negatives. There's a lot of that. Okay, so we saw it a day early. It releases tomorrow, I think, worldwide. What'd you think? Just in general terms.
In general, I liked it. I enjoyed it. It was a good little spook fest. And as far as it being like a Blair Witch movie, I kind of, and this might be partially due to nostalgia, but I do think I like the first one more, just because it's like childhood, all that. Weird childhood.
Yeah.
But, as I was telling him on the way to the theater, as far as like a good Blair Witch movie goes, it has to be in the woods and it has to be spooky. If it's got that, it's halfway there. And it was in the woods and it was spooky. But it did have some flaws.
Let's go over the negatives first, and then we'll hit the positives. No spoilers. No spoilers, so keep away from that.
That's going to be difficult.
I don't think so.
But basically,
biggest negatives, jump scares. And look, I can handle jump scares if they have a payoff. Like if they're good and they look good and they make you terrified.
Yeah, there really
but
was
these
a
were
lot
very
of,
cheap.
Yeah, it was a lot of like, and it felt like they were trying to keep your attention. People, who weren't fans of the first one, because the first one was very like slow burn.
Mm-hmm. People who thought the first film was boring, they're like, well, here's a guy jumping up in front of the camera in a loud noise.
Yeah,
that'll keep your attention. That'll wake you up.
It was very much that, quite a bit, and it's a big trope with found footage movies. You just frame, and then bam, there's a guy. Whoa, and it startles you as nothing else but a surprise. Like there's nothing to it.
And if you watch any other reviews, they'll say that was the biggest issue and that there were tons, one right after the other. I thought, no. They're exaggerating a little bit. They gotta be. And then the first two came and I'm like, well, that wasn't so bad. I could deal with that. Then the next one came. And the next one. And I made a little game out of it, counting them. There were 6. 6 jump scares, 3 of which were in quick succession, and they're all the same. Someone, part of the group, jumping in front of the camera because they couldn't blow their payload and show the witch right off the bat. So they're like, oh, well, here's a guy.
Anyways.
Kind of pissed me off.
I think he's a little bit more upset about it than I was.
It pissed me off.
It definitely was. It kind of cheapened the experience a little bit.
Yeah, it did.
And I don't know if that was like a directorial thing or if it was like editorial, whatever.
Any other negatives besides that?
Negatives besides that, I think it could have gone a little bit longer. It was, first of all, I want to say, if you look at a movie in 3 acts, the first act wasn't very good, the second act was pretty good, and the third act was really good. So as it went along, it got progressively better. The first act, there just wasn't a whole lot there. But overall, it was very much things are not happening, and then things are happening, and then things get very quick, very fast. And that's okay, but I think they would have done better if they made more use of time and space and,
And the new technology they used was both positive and negative. It was good because they were using HD cameras and the shots were crisp, clear, and professional. But that's also a negative because the original was just a bunch of actors with VHS cameras and it felt real and organic. This one, it's just a movie. These are filmmakers who are getting the good shots, and it loses a little bit of the magic of, oh, this might be real, oh, this looks real. This one looked manufactured.
Yeah, I think overall it did feel a little bit more. It wasn't quite as believable as the old.
But to be fair, even if they shot it like the original, no one would think it's real. I mean, people know now that none of that's real.
Mm-hmm.
People know. So they couldn't have caught it anyway.
Yeah.
So they made a new movie, and they didn't try to fool anybody with it.
Yeah. I mean, it's still a good scary movie in general. I would say it doesn't do anything especially new, but there are some kind of original creative things.
Okay,
in it.
positives.
Positives. There was some originality. They made good use of locations. It was overall just there were some very tense moments, and it did a good job of just instantly just it has you and you're like, oh god.
Some people are saying that it's too much like the original. I say that's kind of bullshit because first of all, what would they do with Blair Witch? I mean, they could either go completely original and screw it up, like Book of Shadows. We don't talk about Book of Shadows, do we? Or they can make it like Star Wars Episode 7, borrowing heavily from the original. And I don't really think they even borrowed heavily. They just kind of... It was the same premise, but they did new things with it. So yeah, I can't really fault them for that.
It was kind of it was a little bit like a continuation. Just like,
it wasn't a damn reboot.
Yeah.
It wasn't a reboot.
And overall, I just think it was a pretty good movie. Good, like it was a good like Halloween.
Acting was
flick.
believable except for one of the actresses I didn't really buy. Maybe a personal thing. I didn't buy it. They were good actors, but they were that. They were actors. In the original, they were a little more... They improvised lines. You could tell this was scripted as shit.
Yeah, I mean, that is a thing. I mean, and a lot of people probably don't like that about Blair Witch because it's improvised and it doesn't sound very good at some points. But I mean, it feels more real, definitely.
But hey, we're supposed to be on positives. Okay, acting was good. Camera work was crisp and clear. There was some shaky cam, but I didn't think it was overwhelming.
No.
I mean, if you really hate it that much and it makes you sick, don't see it. But if you're okay with found footage, you're going to be okay with this. The originality was good. They added more to the lore. That was the best part for me.
Yeah, they kind of explained things that were kind of unexplained previously.
It didn't leave you hanging as much as the first one did with all this lore up in the air. They explained it a little bit. Which I guess some people would hate because they wanted it to be all mysterious, but I liked it. Good thing, I thought... Okay, this is a mild spoiler, I guess. So, if you don't want any spoilers at all, click off. But this is really mild. They did show the witch.
And she was fucking cool.
Yeah, see?
She was really cool.
I thought she was too.
She didn't look fake. She looked... And it wasn't like... They didn't show her very much.
No.
It was very like, just outside the frame,
Few moments on the screen.
Yeah, but
they
when
weren't
she was
gratuitous.
There, she was scary. She was a villain.
They weren't gratuitous with it. And her look was inspired by the lore that they came up with, which I really liked.
Mm-hmm.
She wasn't just some generic monster thing. She was thought out.
Yeah.
And the third act was really good.
Yeah.
They did a lot of cool things with time and getting lost. Things that the first film did a little bit, they went a step higher.
Yeah, in the first film, as I'm sure some of you know, again, this is kind of the spoiler part of the review.
Are we going to do that, like full spoilers?
Not full, but this is a little bit showing a little bit more.
Okay.
They did in the original. They got lost and they kept like circling back and they couldn't find out why. They did that here, but they did it to a bigger extent. They
Yeah, these are spoilers.
The time, it kind of, like, people were trapped in time. Like, they were trapped there, and, like, time didn't change. Like, during most of the film, it's at night. And that's kind of a big, well, not big, but it's kind of a plot point, is that it never turns day. once at a certain point, and it's just I don't know. It's really creative how they used.
But yeah, we're rambling.
Yeah.
Overall, if you're a fan of the original, I'd say go see it and make up your own mind. Some fans are going to hate it.
I think you have to.
Some are going to love it. Some are going to be like, it was pretty good, but it wasn't great.
Yeah, I think you have to just not judge it based on the original. You can't say
People are going to do that.
I know.
It has to be as a sequel. Anyways, what would you give it out of 10?
7 out of 10.
7 out of 10.
Because it's not.
Yep.
It's a good movie. It's just not spectacular.
I'm giving it a 7 too. And I think that's fair. A lot of people, if they don't like it, they're going to hate on it too much, and they're going to go really low.
Yeah.
They're going to over-exaggerate how terrible it is, and it's not terrible.
Yeah.
It's a decent sequel, and it buries in the dirt that other sequel. So, it's a worthy sequel.
And it
just didn't quite live up to the first movie.
Yeah.
It's worth seeing, though. So 7 out of 10.
7 out of 10. All right.
We would recommend it.
All right. This has been
Late Night Reviews with White Bread and the Mole.